If you could take traits from any receiver in NFL history, what would you do to build the greatest wide receiver of all time? Amon St. Brown has been killing the offseason, starring in Netflix's new Receiver show produced by Peyton Manning, getting his brand new contract, and yes, appearing on the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark, Fred Taylor, and Channing Crowder. Fred Taylor, a guy who should be in the Hall of Fame. Ryan Clark, a really good safety of the 2010s. And then Channing Crowder, really just there for comedic effect. But on the podcast, they asked him that same question. If you could just build the greatest wide receiver of all time, who would you choose and what traits? Here's what he said, because he kind of cooked. For straight up speed, he actually listed out two guys, Tyreek Hill and Randy Moss. You can't go wrong with either one of these guys. They're both acceptable and correct answers. Tyreek, obviously, a little bit more recency bias, but both of them just insanely fast. Both Hall of Fame wide receivers. Both, some people may think this is a hot take. Tyreek is going to go down as one of the greatest receivers of all time. Just one of the biggest threats of all time with the ball in his hand. Any time that you give him the rock, there's a chance he's going to score. For size, once again, a very correct answer, Calvin Johnson. When you have the nickname Megatron, you're obviously pretty big. Megatron, only 38 years old. It's funny to think that there would have been an outside shot that he would still be playing with Amon St. Brown, but Calvin Johnson, still just an absolute unit of a man. Once again, Hall of Fame wide receiver. When you have the nickname Megatron and there literally are two guys pressed up against you on the goal line, you're a threat to go up and get it. He looks like twice the size of this Eagles cornerback. Calvin Johnson, clearly the wide receiver you want in terms of size. For hands, once again, Larry Fitzgerald, really good answer. There's a lot of guys you could go here. Maybe a little bit of a sleeper would be Chris Carter, Antonio Brown maybe, but Larry Fitzgerald, we all know the graphic that says that he has more tackles than drops in his career. Just exemplifies what kind of receiver this was. He's actually a candidate for another receiver that we're going to mention next, but Larry Fitz, the best hands in the game. For toughness, they chose Hines Ward. Hines Ward, another guy that should be in the Hall of Fame. He is still waiting for the call. But when fouls and catches, the best blocking wide receiver of all time. Larry Fitzgerald also was one of the better blockers, but Hines Ward was a linebacker playing wide receiver. Was just amazing throughout the 2000s. When fouls and catches, Hines Ward stats are Hall of Fame good. Add in the fact that he's 2 Super Bowl time champ, 1-time MVP. Hines Ward is legit. Definitely the tough wide receiver that I want. And then Ryan Clark originally asked about route running. Amon-Ra did want to switch it up to just feet. And Chad Ochocinco, not necessarily who I would have thought of. I would have thought of Devontae Adams, maybe AB again. But yeah, Chad Johnson had some great feet, some really good route running and footwork. He still kind of kills it if you watch those workout videos. His feet are still there, just insanely quick feet. Doesn't have the speed anymore. I'm not saying he can still play, but the feet are still there. Chad Ochocinco, Chad Johnson, great footwork. Amon St. Brown through 3 years has killed it, and it's not super ambitious to say that he hasn't even reached the ceiling yet. Going to be interesting to see what he can do in his 4th year. He doesn't have the stresses of waiting for a new contract. Amon St. Brown looking to do big things with the Lions, and if he's modeling his game after any of those guys, Lions fans, you should be pretty excited.